let me make sure I get this right. From the Guam Hotel and Restaurant Association, Mary Rhodes, from the GHRA Food and Beverage Committee. She is the chair of that committee, Renee Logie, and the chair of the Guam Chamber of Commerce, Christine Boleto. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing?
Good. How are you guys?
It's early.
Yeah.
Good morning.
This is late
Congratulations
for us.
on the new show.
Thank you, Mary. I remember we were talking to you during containing COVID, and you had told us that, hey, I love this. I want you guys to keep it around. So we did it for you.
Yeah, thanks. Just for me. I'm sure all the viewers appreciate it, though.
So we brought you in because we were talking about Bill 384. Is that correct? That was introduced, I think. Mary?
384.
384.
Right.
So yeah, tell us about the work that was put into this with Senator Joe San Augustine.
Well, actually, the three organizations separately have been talking about it, but it's been discussed on the Economic Advisory Task Force group. There's a working group that gives recommendations to the governor. So it's been in discussion for some time because some restaurants and distributors have been inquiring about whether or not we can update the laws. Some restaurants have changed their on-premise license to off-premise in the meantime because they are not able to operate dine-in services even at 50% occupancy. So some restaurants have decided to go to off-premise just to sell alcohol with their food. And because of the way the law exists today, there's statutes in there that you have to separate it out. You can't have both on and off premise. So it really took the three organizations to come together to really start the conversation and get this from ideas out pen to paper. And initially we started talking to actually a lot of the other senators. And just so you know, I just spoke to Senator San Augustine last night, and I really impressed upon him that although, you know, we are really grateful, he did decide to sponsor the bill. He introduced it yesterday on Monday evening, and our intent is really to get other people to co-sponsor. And so we've met with other senators, and we're looking that for them to co-sponsor when this is introduced in the hearing, so that it can also be amended by committee to include all of the senators that we are personally meeting with, just to make sure that we include everybody who would like to see this go through. And so far, we've had a lot of favorable responses from general public, as well as, again, wholesalers, distributors, the restaurateurs, even some of the bars. And we've included a lot of language where it's not just take out alcohol. It includes a lot of amended recommendations for amending the statutes so we can modernize the law. Our law, we adopted it in the 1950s, and so it needs to be updated to include a lot of the new recipes that are out there and just take out some old laws that are on the books that are very restrictive.
What are some of the things that were in the old law that you found interesting, since it was ever since the 50s? That's like 19 forgotten.
Well, that's like Prohibition era too. So one of the, two great examples are right now, bars and restaurants are limited, or anybody with an ABC license is limited to no more than a gallon and no less than an ounce. So even if you have a bottle with an ounce, technically that's still a shot. Also, technically, that could be 4 additional drinks that you can make with a mixed cocktail with a quarter of a shot, right, with a dram. So those are ingredients that possibly didn't go into mixology back then. And so now with new types of spirit, mixed drinks, cocktails,
right,
you can use a quarter of a shot.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't make sense to throw out a bottle when it still has an ounce or less.
I guess back in the 50s, they drank everything straight.
Right. So, and also that's another thing. That's the other one we have is stacking. So they allow a shot and a beer because back then it was called a Boilermaker. So you can have a shot and a beer, but you can't have more than that in front of you. So even the beers in a bucket, a bottle of wine for more than 2 people or even 1 person is considered too much alcohol in front of a person, because technically a bottle of wine is 5 glasses.
Yeah.
So you're not supposed to have any alcohol more than the number of people who are of drinking age in front of them. So that's considered stacking. And there are a lot of things, again, that's part of, specials, promotions, and maybe there are like 3 people in front of you and they want a bucket of beer, but they can only have 3 bottles of beer in front of them, and then the server will just bring the additional 3 bottles that's owed to that bucket.
Right. Yeah,
so stacking is one that we're asking to remove, just because when it comes to especially like wine and champagne where it's served in a bucket or right on the table, it's part of that service, that table service.
Right, and that's good, because Bree is a double fister, so we need to get as many beers as we can on the table. Let's get Renee.
Oh.
Well, I think the other, the other thing is, it's also to evolve with the change in the landscape. So one of the things that we recommended to include as far as like licensure is delivery drivers, so that if they're picking up alcohol and delivering it to the home or to an establishment, that they have the same requirements as those that serve alcohol. So, it's not only just to address antiquated laws, but also to update and make sure that it's inclusive of how, in this current climate, we have delivery drivers that may be delivering alcohol, and we want to make sure that they have the same requirements as everyone else who serves it.
Right, Renee, let's get if we could. So when this idea came out, people were talking about it on social media and saying, "Oh, why would you order something to go from a restaurant or whatever when you could just go to the store and buy it from the store?" So I wanted to ask, how much of a benefit do you think that if this gets up and running, it gets passed, how much of a benefit do you think it is going to be for a lot of these businesses that are struggling to, add a little more to their bottom line during this pandemic?
Yeah, I think it'll be very beneficial for several businesses around the island, because it creates a new opportunity. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It just creates a new opportunity to make some more business, whether it's somebody that now doesn't have to make 2 stops on their way home. They can make 1 stop. And just maybe they weren't even going to order food from the restaurant to begin with, but now because they can get everything they need in 1 stop, they'll now decide to get food and their beverage to go.
What I was thinking was, a lot of these places now, they do signature drinks or craft cocktails, right? So those are things that you can't get in the store, and I don't care what store you go to.
Yeah, so I think it also gives the flexibility to each establishment to become a little bit more creative with their offerings.
So this isn't really just catered toward you could bring home a 6-pack or something like that. This is more towards those signature cocktails that Chris was talking about, because he's more of the bougie, fancy drinking type of a guy, where I'm just straight up, I'll just have a beer.
Yeah, I'm not even.
For sure. I don't think any of us expect that they're going to go to Kitchen Lingo and ask for a 6-pack of any kind of beer.
Right. Yeah, you know what? Let me get that roasted seared cauliflower with the Brussels sprouts fromage, and give me a 12-pack of Miller Lite. You know what? Breeze here, better make it a case. Right. All right. So yeah, and I saw Kitchen Lingo. It's funny you mentioned them, because they are doing their cocktails in little jars, and so that kind of turned me on to maybe thinking a little bigger. Some of our people were like, "Oh, why would we could just go to the store?" But there are many great things that a lot of these places offer that you just can't get anywhere else. So
Right.
you think it's going to be a big benefit?
Speaking of them, they've already kind of been pioneers, if you will, in this effort, because they've gotten the approval from ABC Board to be able to sell their drinks, and it is a sealed container. All the laws that apply to not consuming alcohol while driving or otherwise, after you pick it up, is still in effect. And what they did was get like that bubble tea, I guess, plastic cup that seals it completely on the top, so that if a customer picks up their signature cocktails, you'd have to puncture that seal in order to consume the drink. And, that was a way to ensure that, it wasn't just, one of those cups that have it's easy to open and consume. So there's still, in the law, ways to ensure that there's compliance with the laws, and that we're not allowing people to go into their cars and start drinking on the way home to primer up or anything.
No, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because there were people that were commenting on social media, this is just going to mean more DUIs and things like that. So thanks for.
But I think part of that was and I wasn't even clear when we started talking about this a little bit before we went on leave. Bree, I didn't know that it was. I thought it was just someone's idea and they were going to start doing it like the next week. I didn't know that it was going to involve doing a whole bill and revamping these old codes that are on the books.
Yeah, we have to really update the laws, because even if the governor, we did ask the governor at one point to consider an executive order, and the AG's office came back to her office and said that you have to go through the legislature, because it is amending the bills, or amending the statutes with public law. And so when GHRA started talking with Women's Chamber and Guam Chamber, it was really important that we take this opportunity to look at all of the statutes, not just for takeout, and allowing delivery services to take place in delivering alcohol. So we really wanted to look at it from a holistic view of how can we improve it for the industry, and not just for restaurants and bars. Again, it's the whole supply chain management. Total sales have been down for restaurants and for the wholesalers, but also even shipping companies and just the whole supply chain. And so, like Renee said, it's giving everybody an opportunity to reassess their business. Just like during COVID, everybody has to look at how do they provide products and services, and you have to change the way that you're doing business in order to start looking at efficiencies and new types of delivery mechanisms, so that you can really update and upgrade your services so that customers are better protected. And like Christine said, we've taken into consideration everything from not just DUIs and open container laws, but also looking at the Responsible Alcohol Server Seller Act. Those delivery drivers, whether they're in-house with, I know some places have their own drivers, or through third-party services, they'll be subject to taking either the TAM or the TIPS training, which is available at GCC or with GHRA or any other educational institute that's approved by the ABC board to teach these classes, so that they are responsibly serving and selling this alcohol.
While we have all you very strong and powerful ladies on our Zoom feed here, I wanted to just kind of maybe round robin. Could we just do a status check on, and I guess we'll start with you, Mary. PCOR 3, all businesses open now. We know that, the restaurants have been doing, I feel pretty good with the takeout, and kind of trying to evolve around these different conditions in this new environment. So if you could just give us a status on how you think the GHRA's members are doing, business-wise during PCOR 3.
PCOR 3, we were really hoping that restaurants would open up to 100%, especially since other things have opened up. So we need to get to a point where we can open up establishments at 100%. If you have other types of entities where they are fully open, then people will patronize it more. But right now, some businesses aren't opening at 50% occupancy. We did have a meeting, GHRA had a meeting where Renee and I and additional members of our committees met with public health on the clarification of the laws, because there are some discrepancies between PCOR 3 with the executive order with the rule 29 versus 22 and I believe 12, where it talks about 50% occupancy versus 50 packs. So 50 is for outside seating, outside dining, and 50% occupancy. So what people don't realize is that public health has actually approved 50% occupancy inside. So if your banquet or hall or dining room can occupy 500, you can actually have an event with 250 people, but you still have to have social distancing. So the social distancing is still what is the key point in this. And you still, of course, have to have your masks and everything. So it's very difficult to hold events, even with 6 feet distance, if you're not from the same household. So something we've also asked them to consider is, once you enter a restaurant and even you have the social distancing in place between tables, most tables with the tabletop, you can't have 6 feet between a person across from each other unless you're doubling the table up or something. Most tables aren't 6 feet long, wide and length. So we're asking them to reconsider that, because the restaurants already are doing all of the things that's required to ensure that they are practicing safe and health hygiene within the restaurant themselves, and then asking the guests to come in protected with a face mask, sanitizing before they enter, having hand sanitizers and touchless hand stations throughout, and then the 6 feet distancing. But once you sit at a table, you should already be able to eat without that 6 feet distance from across from each other, if you're not within the same household, because you're already taking all the additional measures. So we're asking for consideration on that, and to get occupancy up higher for indoors as well as outdoors. We would like to see it increase to 100%.
And what do you think is the evolution of that going to be? Are we looking at, within the next month, or how far along are we on the discussion?
If we're saying tourism really isn't going to open up till August, we're already end of July. And so we're asking for them to consider for that, because even PCOR 4 requires vaccine. And so we're a long way away from there. So if we can consider at least restaurants and other establishments, not just restaurants, but other establishments to start operating at 100%, but you still take all of the precautionary measures by implementing what public health wants you to implement while you're open, then those initiatives should be good enough to help protect the community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, aside from the restaurants, though, but what about hotels? I think months ago we talked about the possibility of some hotels that are closing their doors. Can you tell us, give us an update on the status of the hotel industry?
Well, right now we have a lot of hotels who have gone back online because they were expecting to go online July 1. So some of them pushed their dates, but there are a lot of hotels that are open and really offering local packages, staycations. And of course, we still have long-term guests and military all staying throughout. I am working with Guam Chamber of Commerce with the Joint Region Marianas for our upcoming exercises. Right now, we do have an Indo-Pac exercise going on with Anderson, and we have some additional exercises coming up in the next couple of months. And so we're looking at ways where we can work with the military, understanding that they have their limitations with PAC fleet of what they'll consider. But as far as hotels reopening, the only one who's really closed down at this point is Fiesta. They are changing out with IHG to be Crown Plaza, and they're going to be reopening next year. And I believe Holiday Resort is still closed, but a lot of the other hotels are just waiting to fully reopen. And you can tell just by going online to all of the travel sites or to individual websites, and a lot of them are selling local packages to encourage our local residents.
Christine, and we're going to get to you other two, but it's just Mary gets just so much on her plate. If you could, right? So if we're talking about opening, businesses and doing more with tourism and the hotels, how much of a return to work are we anticipating for these tens of thousands of tourism workers who have been displaced by this pandemic?
Well, that's what's challenging right now, is until we have really large volume, large revenue, it's going to be very hard to go to full staff, full capacity. It's going to be a while for that. So that's where businesses already are at that point. If they had the PPP and the EIDL, the PPP timeframe to bring a lot of those employees back to work. It's very important that we start getting to that 100% occupancy, because those businesses have to start operating and people are looking to come back to work. So I think it's slowly happening. I think a lot of people are being encouraged with PCOR 3 and seeing how things are done. Public health has been working with us to make sure that we get the word out so that everybody is in compliance. So their role is not to shut people down. Their role is really to work on compliance. And so by coming up with ways of how to diversify the businesses, like updating the ABC laws, we're hoping that hotels, restaurants, and the bars will look at different ways of offering products and services, because even if, let's say, they go up to 100%, some people aren't still comfortable going out. And so we feel home delivery services is just the trend that's going to stay. And that's a new type of economy, like the shared economy that we've seen grow over the years. And we think that this is just an opportunity for people to really start some new services or use existing ones. And we're just trying to update the laws so that people can add on services where it will be more convenient for the consumer to get the products that they want at home.
You know what I really love? I mean, that's a weird way to put it, but the way that so many small businesses are really just finding new ways to get their products and services to, I got a friend who owns a food truck, and the food trucks, they're doing okay, but they had to make up for those 3 months that were on lockdown, and so now they're doing lunch plates, and we've seen this evolution from business. But what I wanted to ask you is, we're talking about opening up businesses at 100%, and this will be more for Christine and Renee. Do you think that the demand is there for full opening at 100%?
I don't think that we're there yet. As Mary mentioned, you still hear from customers and people in the community the fear of still going back to restaurants. I just had a conversation with someone that was telling me, with air conditioning, it circulates the virus throughout. And so, you have so much information out there regarding the virus, and people are pulling from that. And it's still that fear of the spread, especially when we have these pockets that surface, these clusters. It I think further serves to make people leery of going out, but it's starting to grow, and we need to give them the opportunity to do so. And we need to give businesses the opportunity. Like you mentioned, small businesses in particular are looking for new and innovative ways to still be able to produce the revenue that they need to support their business. And so, I don't think that we're going to see, once we go to 100%, people rushing into restaurants or the retail stores. But I think giving the business establishment that capacity and leaving it up to them to work, either on their media to invite people in and show that, they are practicing those safe measures to protect their customers. We give them the opportunity, and again, it also gives them the opportunity to look for new ways to expand their business and expand their revenue.
So I wasn't sure. That's kind of a mixed answer, because you're right. There are people, as we start to go more towards normal, people wanted to do normal things like, go out to dinner. But there's still those people who are a little bit leery, but we're seeing so much, those people, they're still eating out, but they're just getting takeout, right? And so when we talk about opening to 100%, I went out to dinner a couple weeks ago, and I waited 2 hours to get into the restaurant because of social distancing and all that stuff. And
Did you make a reservation?
yeah, I made it. They weren't accepting reservations at the time too. Yeah.
Right, and just keep in mind, like for 100%, when we look at that, and you're looking at an establishment that has the seating capacity of 20, we need to give them it's not feasible for them to open at 50% and have 10 people in their restaurant and bring back wait staff and bring back. So, again, we've got to give them that opportunity. 100% opens up the opportunity for other businesses to finally open their doors, because it's not financially feasible for them to do it at 50%. But again, we don't think that everybody's going to rush in, but we certainly have to give the business the opportunity to try to make it work.
Right.
Here's an example of what I've seen the last 2 months that has grown and new people are attracted to just because of COVID is golf. Golf, the courses are starting to get full all the way through November. Bookings on the weekends are all the way through November for majority of the courses. And I've seen a lot of new golfers out there because it's the one sport you can actually be in a cart by yourself, play, get into it, go with families and friends, and if there is social distancing already naturally within it. And so I've seen people automatically get into golf recently where there's a huge surge in it, but yet they're limited at the 50% because it's because of the distancing they have to have with each cart. But I would like to see it at 100% because it's just booked all the way through. Can you imagine when we open up tourists? It's going to be very difficult to get tee times for our local community. Right. So I think that golf should be 100% where they can open up for occupancy because it's all outdoor activity and it's already, there's so much that's being done with the golf carts and all of the equipment, and they're not allowing you to share things. So that's an example of a non-restaurant, non-food related establishment that I think also needs to be opened up at 100%.
What else have we seen?
I would agree with Mary and say that should apply to basically all outdoor activities. When you talk about the jet ski operators or you talk about the banana boat operators, a lot of the times it's one person to one piece of equipment. It's outdoors, which, by all the studies that I've read, really mitigates any spread of the virus when you're outdoors in fresh air and it's warm. And so,
and they're sanitizing
those kinds of pockets we do really need to look at. Exactly.
Yeah. What else have you seen though? What are businesses doing to diversify, I guess, their marketing, or what new ideas have they been doing to bring in customers? Whether it's, the hotel and restaurant industry, but just other businesses.
Well, I've seen like Casilas recently just announced, you can order in advance just because probably people are afraid to just go in large volumes, right? And a lot of banking is all available online. So there's a lot more mobile application ordering and delivery services again that are trending, and businesses are adjusting so that they can start having an online presence, whether it's a mobile application or through their website, but they're trying to find different ways to introduce distribution channels to the consumer so that it is a lot more convenient, so people aren't gathering in large places. And so I think that's where businesses have the biggest opportunities, is if you can really add technology. That's probably one of the best things that you can do to increase your business during this time.
An example also is like with Docomo, on top of online payment options, they created a drive-through where people who weren't comfortable going online could still come in and drive up to a window and make their payment. And then we've also established an app where people can go online and actually make appointments at any of our stores to meet with a customer service person to get their needs taken care of. So, aside from expanding, the business, I think also on the customer service side, businesses are looking for ways to make it easier for their customers to transact business with them.
Right. Rennie, can you tell us the GHRA member restaurants? I see, because I'm a PHR Ken card, they do different things to promote. How has the restaurant traffic in the hotels been, and what ways have they tried to get the word out to people who may be thinking there's no tourism, there's no hotels, there's no restaurants in hotels?
I think the best way right now is most businesses are doing social media. So if you want the most up-to-date hours, up-to-date promos, check out that establishment's social media account, because that's the best way to reach people right now. And then a lot of places are doing a lot of local promos and just stuff to try and get business in and capitalize on what we can do for right now.
Mary, what
think
about local staycations? I'm seeing people post about that.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Like the Jusitani's doing a staycation special. I've seen other hotels doing promotions for the locals that you don't always see, or they're better rates than what you normally do see. Every little bit helps.
Okay, so I wish we could be a fly on the wall and hear some of these discussions with you guys calling for the 100% capacity opening and public health response. What's kind of like the tone of these discussions? Is it pretty heated, or is there a lot of back and forth on it?
No, I think a lot of it is just, waiting until the governor's office and the medical group that she works with is really making those determinations. And I think it's trying to give advice and guidance on what we'd like to see, but at the same time working within the parameters that's being given to us. I think there's a fine balance there, but whenever we've asked for clarification on things, it's always, we've always had a great relationship with the different government agencies, because part of our job is to help educate the members and to get them to comply with the law as well, but to also give recommendations when we see challenges with the laws, like what we said with the ABC is, we've been asking probably for the last 10 years to update the laws. So we're really grateful we have this opportunity to modernize the law and really get that going, because we have to really adjust with the times and take these opportunities when we are looking at creating change, that we look at across the board. Another example of what we're looking to improve on is, as we prepare for our tourists coming back, one thing that has always been frustrating for tourists when they play golf or even go to brunch, and even our local community, our residents and our military, is, alcohol can't be served before 9 a.m. And so that is another thing that we are asking to change. Is we don't want to see it go past right now, past 2 a.m., but we are asking to increase the time from 7 a.m. until 2 a.m. 7 a.m. is really important because, again, with brunch or breakfast, a lot of our Japanese and our Korean tourists, they do ask for beer, especially with breakfast. And
they're
then
on
even
vacation.
Golfers, yeah, they're on vacation, but also they do it anyway at home. Like they literally drink beer with
It sounds like
breakfast,
Sabrina's breakfast of choice.
Yeah, exactly. Especially that Jason, I'm
Yeah.
sure
Oh
Jason,
man, this guy.
but even golfers, it's very hard to coordinate everything all in advance the night before. And then having to remember you can't have alcohol until 9 a.m. And a lot of times you're just wanting to chill it. You're not really drinking at 7 a.m. You're just having to put it in your cooler so that when you make that turn or you're done at 12 noon, you do have beer, right? So we are looking
First things first, you got to put the beer in the cooler. Come on.
Of course. So again, all laws still apply, but that's just one more convenience item I think we asked to put in, so that it addresses that target audience that really is interested in getting it during those timeframes. But there's also special events where they have, alcohol served early in the morning.
Right.
And so even at brunches, with brunch or breakfast, it's very popular. And so I think that those are just minor changes that will make a big difference in the operations for a lot of these establishments.
All right. Well, ladies, we got to wrap. We actually, you talk about the Physicians Advisory Group. We got Dr. Hoa on the line, so we'll touch on this. Thank you already, Mary. Always a pleasure. Come back on. Christine, stop making the governor mad. Or
Try not to.
Keep it up. I like it.
Well, thanks, Renee, also for joining us today.
Thank you.
No, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And keep us posted and good talk. All right.
Thank you.
All right. There you wash your hands. 7:46.
Oh my goodness. the bacon and Bud Light provision. I like the.
You're like, no one's drinking at 7 in the morning. Have you seen Sabrina on the
Stop
weekend?
it. Goodness gracious, that's
What?
not even cool.
Oh, it's not?
No,
Okay. Hey,
you're making everybody think that that's all I do is drink beer all the time.
not all you do all the time.
Okay. Okay. Let's not go into how you like your little bougie mixed cocktails.
Oh, here we go.
All right.
Okay, 747.
Pants
You just look at her
drinker.
Facebook under hobbies. It says drink beer. Beer! All right, let's go back to the Zoom feed where we have Dr. Hoa from the Governor's Physicians